Today is March 8th, and it's pretty significant for us. It's
Mm-hmm.
International Women's Day, a day that, kind of echoes with the voices of so many women who've really fought for the rights and recognition we often take for granted.
Yeah,
And it's not really a coincidence that it falls on March 8th, is it?
right.
The date itself is like a reminder of the struggles women have faced, reaching back to a tragic event in 1857, a fire in a New York textile factory,
Right.
where dozens of women workers lost their lives.
Yeah.
So in this deep dive, we're going to explore the roots of International Women's Day
Okay.
and kind of uncover why this date in particular became a symbol of the ongoing fight for equality.
It is interesting how, this date, while rooted in tragedy, kind of evolved to represent this broader movement.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like a single event. It was a series of protests and strikes and gatherings that all kind of culminated in the International Women's Day that we know and love.
So let's rewind the clock then.
Okay.
Where does this story truly begin?
Well, I think we need to travel back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
Okay.
A time of just like immense social and political upheaval.
Yeah.
Women were demanding basic rights, the right to vote fair wages,
Right.
and just to be treated as equals in society.
Yeah.
And I think that the 1857 textile workers protest in New York that you mentioned is a
Right.
really powerful example of this.
Yeah.
These women were working in just deplorable conditions and earning less than half of what men earned.
Wow.
And they decided they'd had enough.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine the courage that it took for those women to stand up and demand something better.
It was a pivotal moment. I mean, just picture 15,000 women
Right.
marching through the streets of New York City,
Yeah.
demanding change. And sadly, their protest was met with just like a brutal response from the police,
Oh, wow.
which I think highlights just that really deep-seated resistance to women's demands for equality.
So how did we go from this protest in 1857 to International Women's Day being recognized on March 8th?
Yeah.
Was it a direct result of this event?
Not directly, no. It was more of a gradual process with several key moments that shaped the movement.
Okay.
And a few decades after the 1857 protest, socialist feminism started gaining some real momentum.
Okay.
And a key figure emerged, Clara Zetkin.
Clara Zetkin, a name that resonates with strength and determination.
Oh, for sure. She was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Zetkin was a German Marxist and a passionate advocate for women's rights. And she played like a crucial role in organizing the International Conference of Women Socialists in Stuttgart in 1907.
Okay.
And this gathering was really significant because it led to the formation of the International Socialist of Women, a group that was dedicated to fighting for women's suffrage and equality on a global scale.
So did this conference directly lead to the choice of March 8th?
Not quite, but it definitely set the stage.
Okay.
A year later, in 1908, another significant strike by women textile workers took place in New York City.
Okay.
And this kind of echoed the demands of those who had come before them.
Right.
This time, it was the socialist women in the United States who organized the first International Women's Day in 1909. And this was to stand in solidarity with the striking workers.
Wait, so the first International Women's Day wasn't even on March 8th?
You're right.
Wow.
It was initially observed on February 28th in the United States.
Okay.
But the idea of a day dedicated to women's rights really resonated far beyond national borders. And at the 1910 International Socialist Women's Meeting in Copenhagen,
Okay.
a proposal was put forward to establish an annual International Women's Day,
Okay.
with each country choosing a date that held particular meaning for them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how did March 8th finally become the official date? Was there one event that solidified it?
We're not a single event, but more like a convergence of events and a growing momentum. However, a critical turning point occurred in Russia in 1917. In 1917, amidst all the turmoil of World War I,
Right.
women textile workers in Russia, they staged a massive strike.
Okay.
They were demanding bread and peace, which was a reflection of the really dire conditions they were facing and the devastating loss of over 2 million Russian soldiers.
Wow. It's incredible how these women facing such hardship themselves became such a huge force for peace during wartime.
Their courage was remarkable.
Oh.
And this strike, which actually began on the last Sunday in February, according to the Julian calendar,
Okay.
that was used in Russia at the time, coincided with March 8th on the Gregorian calendar that was used everywhere else.
Wow.
And it became like a super pivotal moment in Russian history, eventually leading to the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II
Wow.
and the provisional government granting women the right to vote.
That's amazing. And that's a really powerful testament to the impact of their collective action.
Yeah.
I mean, gaining the right to vote in the midst of such upheaval, that's a monumental achievement.
It certainly is. And while it wasn't the sole reason, this event in Russia definitely significantly contributed to solidifying March 8th as the widely recognized date for International Women's Day in the years that followed.
Yeah.
It really resonated globally, demonstrating the power of women's collective action in shaping history.
So it seems like International Women's Day started as a movement closely tied to socialist ideals and labor rights.
Yeah, you're right. In its early days, International Women's Day was definitely very much intertwined with those socialist and labor movements.
Right.
However, as we move through the 20th century, the focus kind of broadened to encompass a much wider range of women's rights issues.
So issues beyond just labor rights and suffrage.
Exactly. It began to include things like reproductive rights, equal pay, and ending violence against women.
Right.
It became less about a specific political ideology and more about just achieving equality for women in all aspects of life.
And ultimately, this broader recognition led to the UN formally acknowledging International Women's Day, right?
Precisely. In 1975, the UN officially recognized International Women's Day.
Yep.
And I think this recognition really helped elevate the day from a primarily socialist and labor-focused event to a more inclusive celebration of women's achievements and a call to action for global gender equality.
That shift in focus is fascinating. So much has changed since those early protests and strikes.
It has.
What does International Women's Day truly mean for us today? Why should we still care about a day that is so rooted in these historical events?
That is a question worth reflecting on.
Yeah.
While we've undoubtedly come a long way since the textile workers' protests and the fight for suffrage, the fight for true gender equality is far from over.
Yeah.
International Women's Day allows us to kind of acknowledge the progress that we've made while also shining a light on all the work that still needs to be done.
So it's a day to celebrate the achievements of women throughout history and across the globe.
Yeah.
But also to raise awareness about all the challenges that still persist.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a day to celebrate, to reflect, and to advocate for a more just and equitable world.
Right.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of equality requires continuous effort, generation after generation.
It seems like the choice of March 8th, while not directly tied to a single event, speaks volumes. It really reflects this continuous struggle for women's rights. A struggle that has really evolved and expanded over time.
Absolutely. It's like a relay race.
Yeah.
With each generation kind of carrying the torch forward, building upon the efforts of those who came before. And it's our responsibility to continue pushing for that progress, ensuring that the sacrifices and accomplishments of all the women who paved the way are not forgotten and continue to inspire us.
So on this International Women's Day, as we delve into this really complex and inspiring history, it begs the question, what will we do, not just today, but every day, to honor the legacy of those who fought so tirelessly for equality?
It's a question we should all grapple with. How can we contribute to building a world where every woman and girl has the opportunity to reach her full potential, free from discrimination and harm?
It's a really powerful call to action, urging us to move beyond that passive acknowledgement and take those concrete steps toward a future where equality isn't a goal, but like a true reality. What are your thoughts on how we can achieve this? I just think we've only just scratched the surface of this super layered topic.
Yeah, I think so too.
International Women's Day, it's so much more than just a celebration.
Yeah, it's a platform for acknowledging these ongoing struggles too, and I think that's fascinating.
Right.
It's a day to amplify the voices of women who are still fighting for their basic fundamental rights, for their safety, for equal opportunities. The work is so far from finished.
And it's really important to recognize that these fights are so interwoven with so many other aspects of identity and social justice.
Right.
I mean, the struggle for gender equality is deeply connected to issues of race, class, sexuality, and ability.
Absolutely. If we kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, Achieving true equality requires a multifaceted approach.
Yeah.
It demands that we dismantle the systems and structures that perpetuate this discrimination and inequality in like all its forms.
It's a powerful reminder that solidarity is key.
Yeah.
We need to stand together, amplify the voices of those who are marginalized and silenced.
Right.
Recognizing that, our liberations are interconnected.
That brings up a really crucial question for all of us. What will you do today and every single day to honor the legacy of those who fought so hard for equality and to carry their work forward?
That question really resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's a call to action, challenging us to move beyond just passive support and engage in that meaningful change.
Whether it's supporting women-led businesses, challenging those harmful stereotypes in our everyday lives, or advocating for policies that actually promote equality.
Yeah.
Every action, no matter how small it feels like, it contributes to that more just future.
I couldn't agree more. Remember, even seemingly small actions can create like this huge ripple effect.
Right.
Speaking out against sexism, mentoring young women, educating ourselves and others about the complexities of gender inequality.
Yeah.
These are all vital pieces of the puzzle.
So on this International Women's Day, let's all make a commitment to be like active participants in this ongoing fight for a world where every woman and girl can really thrive, where equality isn't just some aspiration, but it's like a true lived reality. It's a legacy we all share and a responsibility that we all hold.